Hello, Helen here. Welcome back to my channel. Today's card I'm going to start a little bit differently. I'm going to do a little bit of ink blending on an A4 size sheet of the card, and that will end up being cut down so that it's on the edge of my card base. So I'm going to use one of the distress inks called Mustard Seed, and I'm going to use a couple of the colours out of the Catherine Pooler party set that I've got. I ended up getting out Tiara, but I didn't end up using that because it was very similar to the Mustard Seed, so I only used the two colours, Tiki Torch and then the Mustard Seed. So I'm going to use the lightest of the colours, which is the Mustard Seed, and I'm going to just blend that on first, the area that I'm going to want the colour. And I've started off using the Tim Holtz blending brushes, blending sponges, but I'm going to have a go at the makeup brush that I've got. This is very similar to the Picket Fence and Tailored Expressions brushes that you can get, so if you're interested in any of those, I'll have the link down underneath the video and on my blog for those. So that was just a lot smoother going on than the blending brushes, because I wasn't using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth paper that I usually do my blending on, so I'm just using normal card for this one. So I start with the lightest colour, and then I'm going to go over with what I thought was the next two colours, but it turns out the Tiara is very similar to the Mustard Seed, so I'm not going to use that. And then I just blended on some of the Tiki Torch colour on top of that, and just keep blending both of those colours until I was happy with the blend. Now I'm just going to dry it with my heat tool, just so that I can carry on making the card with it and carrying on doing the rest. You don't have to, you could just put it aside and let it dry naturally. And then I'm going to use my Guillotine. Now I've got an American Crafts Guillotine, which is great because it's got these like little cartridges for the blades, and I've got one that's a scoring tool and one of them that's the cutting. So I'll put the scoring one in first, and I'm just going to work out what the 5 inches is and score that, and then I can do the folding over and then trim it to 7 inches in length. So I'll just take a little bit off the top and then measure and cut the rest, and that's my card base ready. Now you could do this card just as equally portrait, but I'm going to do it landscape this time with a fold at the top. Now the next thing I'm going to do is cut out a border strip using just a scrap piece of white card. Now I do apologise, I hadn't realised that this border die that I've used, which is the Joanna Sheen one, which I purchased from a UK shop, is no longer available. So whatever border dies you might have, or there's various different ones that are available, you will just have to use something different than this one because you can't purchase this one anymore. I'm sorry about that. So I just cut it out. Now this is one that you can extend, and because my card front is just slightly longer than the die, what I do is cut it out normally on the piece of card, and then I move the die down and slot it back into place over one of the full scallops parts of the die. But I'm not going to cut that full piece because you can run into trouble when you do that and end up, if it's slightly off from where the die was cut before, it just messes it up. So I'm just going to put my top cutting mat over, just slightly over the edge of the die, and do the cutting, and then when I check it I hadn't gone quite far enough, so I moved it up slightly and did it again, and that just extends the border die cut a little bit longer, and also doesn't mess up what you've already cut. Before I go sticking down the border and then putting my roses onto this card, I'm going to stamp the sentiment. So I'm just going to set it all up in the MISTI around about where I want the border to be stuck, so that I know which room I've got for doing the stamp. I'm using this Honeybee's birthday stamp set. I really love the script lettering of the birthday part on this stamp, so I think I'm going to be using it a lot. It's just beautiful. So I'll stamp that. It's the first time I've used that stamp, so it didn't stamp very well, but I'm stamping it a couple of times, and then I'll emboss it with clear embossing powder, and that's the sentiment done. So now I can stick the border down onto the card. So I've just got one of these little precision tip bottles that I've decanted some of the glue into, and I'll just put little dots of glue along the outside scalloped part, and then just a few strategic parts into the center, and then stick that down. Now I actually realised I had to be quite careful because the ink was still transferring with the moisture from the glue, so I had to be a little bit careful with that. And then I'm just going to use a couple of acrylic blocks just to hold it down into place while I start sorting out my flowers. Now the flowers, I did quite a range of different colours when I made the flowers for my Mother's Day card just recently. So I'm just going to use the yellow set that I'd done. I ended up using some old scraps that I had of orange and a gold and a yellow and a sort of paler lemon colour. I really like the look of the colour, and it's just something different for me, so I really like the overall look of this card. So I've just done a few of the different roses in the 3D rose set. Now I'll put a link above for where you can look to see how the roses are put together in that video, and I'll also have it linked at the end of the video so you can go and have a look at it. It's a really long video, but it does show you how I put the flowers together. So I'll arrange the leaves and flowers how I think they'll look really good. I play around with how far up and down I have them to start with, because I wanted a little bit of the border showing, but then I also didn't want to get in the way of the sentiment. So once I'm happy with that, I can stick all the pieces down. put some the acrylic blocks onto the roses just to hold them down for the last little bit while they dried, and that's the card finished. It's quite a different colour for me, isn't it? I don't think I've done a yellow card in quite a while, but I really like it. Hope you did too. So thanks for joining me today. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you haven't already so that you can catch the future videos. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.